Joining us now is the great Barbara McQuade, former U.S. Attorney in the state of Michigan. Barb, thank you for being with us tonight. I've been looking forward to talking to you.
Honored to be here on Mueller night.
I have a specific legal question. At the end of Appendix D, there's this list of cases that have been referred for prosecution. There's 14 of them. 12 of the 14 are totally blacked out. Those are cases that Mueller has said we've identified evidence that criminal activity may have happened. You, other law enforcement entity, should consider a prosecution. That's what referral means in that context?
Yes, and it doesn't just mean, we notice something minor. This is a very significant matter. We perceived it to be beyond the scope, and we know Robert Mueller took a very narrow view of his scope of investigation, and so some other entity ought to investigate it. For example, we know in the college bribery scheme, that case started because a cooperator in a securities fraud case talked about bribes from a coach, and that's how that began. So when you have that kind of thing, you find out, you sort of stumble upon evidence of a case while you're investigating another. You don't ignore it if it is significant. So the fact that he referred it to others says to me it was beyond the scope, his narrow scope, and it was significant.
Okay. Right before that, in Appendix D, there's a different section that isn't things that have been referred for prosecution by Mueller. They are cases that have been transferred. So this is cases, a whole bunch of them we've heard of. It's Manafort, Gates, Bijan, Keon, GRU, IRA, blah, 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 blah. All these cases that we knew were ongoing. 2 of those cases are redacted. Now, I understand the name being redacted when it's just been referred from prosecution and no charges have been brought yet. But when it's an ongoing case that's been transferred, how are we not allowed to know who those defendants are? Those are sealed cases. Those are people who have been indicted, that the indictment hasn't been unsealed. Those people are still at large. I mean, what does that mean?
Not clear, but it does suggest to me that it was within what Mueller perceived to be his narrow scope.
Sure.
So there's somewhere in the pipeline, unrelated to the specific scope of links between the Trump campaign and the Russian government, but things that came up that he was investigating along the way and has now transferred. It could be Russians who are overseas and are fugitives.
But it would be, there's no reason they'd be redacted in this report if we've had their names publicly made available.
Yeah.
So there are 2 ongoing cases that were started by Mueller where we don't know who they're against.
Absolutely right.
Do you also agree that this is essentially a roadmap on the obstruction stuff for either prosecutors after the president has left office or Congress now to pursue those in court and or through impeachment proceedings?
Yeah, that's the way I read what Robert Mueller wrote about it would be unfair to charge somebody to talk about charges now when he can't defend himself. It's not appropriate to charge a sitting president. I don't think he anticipated that William Barr would jump in and say, and so that leaves it to me, the Attorney General, to decide there will be no obstruction of justice charges. But there's nothing to stop Congress from picking this up now and nothing to stop a subsequent Department of Justice from charging in 2020.
Barbara McQuade, thank you for being here. You have been a clarion voice throughout this entire process. Stay with us forever.
It would be my pleasure to do so. Thanks, Rachel. Great to be here.
That does it for this second. We'll see you again really soon.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.